Gonzalo Higuain, and it's buried in the top corner. Campana, and again.
No question about it. I am ready to get hurt again.
Welcome, everyone, to episode number 23 of Battered Herons. I am your host, Daniel Granada, alongside my co-host, Christian Duran. How you doing, Chris?
Hey, well, we're back in front of you guys, so we're ready to rock and roll. I'm ready.
Remember, not everybody watches this on YouTube, so nobody has an idea what you just did to the camera, sir.
Well, if they want to see, they can check us out on YouTube. Go throw us a subscription. If not, broken knees again.
I like it. All right, so we're back. Like we said last week, we're going to start reviewing this past season, right? A successful season, I think. I think we can both agree that we felt it was more or less successful.
Yes.
And we're going to start breaking it down, what we thought. I know we had a disagreement as to how we wanted to break this down, and we'll have a quick discussion about that. But before we get into that, I did want to cover, right before we got going, where we came from, right? This is our third season, year number 3, and obviously the most successful one. Now,
and you would know better for sure, because this is my first season experiencing this team. So, I mean, you started from the ground up with this team.
I look, the day that they put tickets on sale was at 10 a.m. I think it was a Tuesday, and I was at work, and I made sure that I cleared my schedule. So I was in my office 10 a.m. By 10:01, maybe 10:02, I already had my season tickets. Like, I've been dying for this. So I've been in it, and it was hard because the pandemic hit a couple of days before our first home game, and that's a story all in itself. But 2020, we made the play-in, right? Because they expanded the playoffs that season. We ended up 7-13-3. So obviously not a good record. We were 10th in the conference, but we made the play-in anyway. But we got mollywopped by Nashville 3-0.
So it's like by default we got it.
I mean, you still had to be in the 10th. Like, you couldn't be last. Although you were basically almost last, but you couldn't be last. And then we lost. Our leading scorer was Lewis Morgan, which I still miss, but he was our leading scorer with 5 goals. So obviously it was an underwhelming first season, but with the circumstances, we were averaging like 2,000 people per game when they finally. I mean, I think those numbers are off because there was nobody at the games at some point, and then there was limited capacity. So don't even worry about that. I'm not even going to talk about the capacity or
the guy behind you was at the games.
What? Yes.
If anybody's watching on YouTube, that guy with those 2 kids,
he was sitting in my seat. He was sitting in my seat for the majority of the season. So that's what that was the first season. And then obviously the following season was a little rougher. It was the first season with Phil Neville. We got sanctioned that year because we had signed the year before 4 DPs, even though we tried to categorize Blaise Matuidi as not a DP, even though he was getting paid like one. And then those sanctions, what were the sanctions? They penalized us $2 million, and then they penalized us $2 million in allocation money. So obviously we didn't have as much money to work with, also when signing players.
And that guy played like 4.5 games too. I mean, come on. This guy's going around passing popcorn to people on Instagram.
The worst thing about those sanctions is that we had 4 DPs and 3 of them were trash. And Higuain at the time wasn't all that great either. So it's not only you're getting penalized for, as they called it, cheating, but we didn't even cheat well.
We didn't even see the fruits of our labor in our cheating.
Exactly. So I think that's the worst part. We hired Chris Henderson, and he worked magic. We had 18 new players onto the team this year, and here we are, a full season in. We made the playoffs. Wasn't the best ending. We ended in a playoff stadium. Higuain retired, but it's a fresh start coming in, and I think it's a whole new perspective. What do you think, Chris?
Well, it's for sure a whole new perspective, and we talked a little bit about those DP clowns, right? I mean, like I told you, this guy out of all the DPs, Blaise Matuidi, I guess his name just stands out more just because of its obscurity and in terms of how different it is. But I mean, I remember you told me earlier in the season that this guy is like the ambassador, like if he's like a rolling mascot.
But you know what? He did more for us as an ambassador than Pellegrini ever did. Ever.
Pellegrini,
look, you're new to Inter Miami.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that name before I just mentioned it?
No.
That guy was a complete waste. And it's unfortunate because I remember when we first signed him and I was like, okay, that's an interesting choice for DP. Never heard of him, but I had high hopes.
Of course.
Completely horrible. As soon as we got sanctioned, we had to get rid of one of our DPs, sent him away, and it's been rough since.
Well, and like I said, with Matuidi, when you told me he's the ambassador, I said, wow. So now we got this rolling mascot worldwide, just taking vacations, just saying, hey, watch Inter Miami, whatever it is. Like, what? Get out of here, man. So I could see the frustration for sure coming from the fans, coming from like yourself. I mean, finally we hit one with Higuain this year. You know, I mean, it wasn't the whole season, but I mean, hey, 1 out of 4, it's not bad.
1 out of 4 is pretty bad.
And especially since he almost suffered a devastating injury to his kneecaps.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to get to that comeback player again. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not even going to address that. So I know that you did a lot of reflecting on this past season. And
Yes.
we were kind of discussing how we wanted to break this up. You said you wanted to break it up into thirds. I think it's into 2 halves. But it's really because you and I differ in the importance of players and situations.
Yeah.
Because to me, Pozuelo was this season. Like,
Yeah.
to me, the season can be broken up into BP before Pozuelo and AP after Pozuelo. But you saw it a little different.
Well, look, I agree with you in the sense of that it should be BP and AP before Pozuelo and after Pozuelo. Completely agree. I think that the after Pozuelo for sure is its own sort of category, right?
Right?
That's for sure, just sticking separately. But for me, what stood out is that first half without Pozuelo, those first 5 games to me, and I was telling you over the time that we've been sort of kind of doing our research, looking into things, I've been watching every game and the highlights, and I watched the first 5 games, and it was misery at its purest. I mean, the defense was terrible. They had different people playing all over the place. I mean, I saw names playing in the first 4 or 5 games that I haven't seen since.
Like
Okay.
Noah Allen?
Nah, well, it kind of, sort of, I guess. But there's one game where Noah Allen did really bad, which I'm not going to just harp on certain games, but there was a game where Noah Allen did really poorly on defense. And I think that's where McVay sort of showed like his stuff. And then he took over that left back position, which, by the way, even after that, Gibbs and McVay were always swapping for that position. So, but again, I'm not even talking about him. I'm talking about players, like I think I saw George Acosta at some point. Ascona got on the field. There's a defender. I forgot what his name is. The name escapes me. But regardless, there were people that were getting on the field that I haven't seen since the first sort of couple games. And I feel like those first couple games should be like in a category of itself, because those first 5 games to me, Phil Neville, I can guarantee you, was completely shitting his pants. Completely.
But I think it was, in some ways, it was strategic, not to lose, but to experiment. Like, at some point, like last season, it was a bad year. It was his first year he took over, and he took over in January when a lot of the roster moves were already made.
Yes.
Like, he didn't really get to choose his team. This season, when it started, he had a whole 18 new players. That's a lot of new bodies in that locker room.
Yeah.
And then he had a time to kind of formulate what he wanted to try out. And he came in and he experimented the first 5 games. He probably experimented longer than that, but that's why you saw Noah Allen the very first game of the year. Noah Allen was starting. Like, he was experimenting, and eventually he found a formula that he felt worked.
Yes.
And it changed. I mean, the first 5 games were a completely different story from the next 10, let's say, or 15.
Of course. And I mean, I saw people like Quinteros. That's the name that escaped me. Frey also saw the field. Jovan Jones, he's sort of been like on and off in terms of like his play. Not just his play, just specifically, but his presence on the field has also been on and off. The midfield, from what I've seen, has always sort of stayed true to the core, other than the wing spot. But again, to me, what stood out was the beginning part of the season. After that, you sprinkle in a 3-game winning streak. Then you got 2 games losing, 2 games tying, then 2 games winning, a loss, a win, a tie, a loss. Like it's very different after those 5 games. And mind you, one of those 5 games were the ass kicking that we took from Austin, which was 5-1, and that was an abomination if I've ever seen one my whole life.
I was looking at their record, and if I'm not mistaken, Pozuelo debuted game number 20.
Yeah,
Was
I
that
see that.
game number 20 against Charlotte, where we won that game? Before that, they played 19 games. If you eliminate into thirds, like you said, you had the first 5 games, which was 4 losses and a tie. So
Yeah.
between game number 6 and game number 20, when Pozuelo made his debut, they went 6, 5, and 2. That's 11 games.
Yeah,
So,
that's 13. You just named 13 games right there.
so I'm off on my math. So,
Well, but that's fairly close. I mean,
but they were obviously performing better. They weren't where they were
Decent.
at the end of the year,
of
but
course.
they were a more middle of the pack team than they were at the end of the year, where they were outright winning almost every week and playing like a playoff team.
Well, and if you think about it, they start the trajectory actually was pretty balanced, right? You started off really low, first 5 games, 4 losses and a tie. Then you sort of take a projection where you're sort of living in the mediocre land, and then you take off the after Pozuelo effect, and boom, you just soar. I mean, not soar, you're not going undefeated or anything like that, but you're soaring and you're getting so much better, so significantly better, that you can be able to sense and see the change in the culture. I mean, that's another thing. Before Pozuelo, after Pozuelo, the perfect thing to talk about with that is wing play versus middle of the field play, right? You could basically tell that before Pozuelo, it was all wing work. But then
Right.
after Pozuelo came in, that's when Phil Neville
building
said,
up
we
the
got to
middle.
work the middle. Yeah. And
Right.
so that's where you could see the trend for sure take a huge spike. But I mean, like I said, you see that there's some sort of improvement throughout the season from the beginning. But those 5 games were just dreadful, dude. I mean, I don't know.
No, like you said, and it almost lives on its own because because it happened right at the beginning of the season and it was so
Yeah.
rough to watch. You almost feel like it didn't even happen. Like
Oh my God.
the only reason that it's such a vivid memory in my head is because, and I've told this story before on here, I felt so bad convincing you to get season tickets
Yeah.
because I was like, I just convinced this guy to spend a bunch of money to get season tickets just to come watch the worst team in MLS. Because after game number 5, we were literally the worst team in MLS. We only had
Yeah.
1 point through 5 games.
Yeah.
So it was rough, but eventually we got Pozuelo.
The food was
things took
decent
a change.
enough.
The food was decent. Before Pozuelo showed up, though, Higuain was still lost. Up until that point, he had 3 goals the whole year, no assists. But that opened the opportunity for Campana to come and shine.
Yeah.
Which I think if Higuain doesn't have those struggles, maybe Campana doesn't have that chance to kind of come out there and shine the way he did.
You're right.
That was a positive in this season. So we had those 2 sections of the season. Now, the latter part of the season, I think Pozuelo's effect changed, like you said, the whole team around, the whole dynamic around.
Yeah.
Do you see this season as coming in with all the new players, the sanctions, everything? Do you see this season as a success, even though we only made it to the first round of the playoffs?
I mean, look, it's like I said in our other podcasts, I believe that this season was a success. You know, that we didn't really have, I don't want to say we didn't have plans, because I mean, every team plans to make the playoffs and excel, but nobody really counted this team in. Nobody counted them in to be winners, to be playoff contenders. You know, to me, if you're talking about a team that wasn't counted for in terms of competing for a playoff a position, then just getting to the playoffs, to me, it screams success. I mean, obviously, you'd want a playoff victory. You'd want to advance further in the playoffs, but I mean, if we're talking about taking the right steps, we're definitely taking them. That's for sure, without a shadow of a doubt.
One thing that I think goes unnoticed, or at least unspoken about a lot, is Mota's improvement, because I know Mota ended up playing a lot better towards the end of the year, but I personally thought Mota was having a rough first half of the year.
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't think that he was very productive offensively, and defensively, I thought he looked a little lost also. The way that he became an outlet for the center backs and for the goalie
yes,
calendar, I felt, I don't know if it has to do with the fact that they were building up the middle so much more, but I think that Mota became one of the top five best players on the team towards the end of the season, which in the beginning of the season, I was okay with them benching him. At
yeah,
some point, I was kind of like, just have Bryce Duke out there instead of Mota and stop putting Bryce Duke out on the wing,
yeah.
because and move Gregory as the holder in midfield, because I was upset with how bad Mota was playing. But I think that he improved a lot. And I'm kind of glad that we have him and Gregory as pillars in our midfield for the next couple years.
Well, and Mota, one thing that I learned in watching all of the games is that you started to see that he actually put more of a force in terms of his offensive production. He started producing a little bit more and being a little bit more reliable offensively. And you know that he's a pretty good player on defense, just like Gregory is. But the fact that he can be able to strike it from distance and strike
Yeah, he's
some
not scared
fear.
to do it.
Yeah, for sure he's not scared to do it. He's totally about that life. But
Mhm.
the fact of the matter is that when he strikes the ball, like he's putting fear in these guys' hearts. Like he's making these goalies, poo poo in their panties.
I don't know if he strikes fear, because, I mean, how many of those did he convert this year?
He converted a couple, but they look scary, dude. I mean, he's full blown blasting Karate Kid Part One, blasting
Well,
these kicks.
we have both Gregory and Mota until the end of 2024.
Yes.
So we have them on the contract for the next 2 years. So I feel like we have a nice core there
Yeah.
in our defensive midfield with Gregory and Mota.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything else you want to talk about with this upcoming season, or can we get on to the awards?
Well, I mean,
Start with this past season.
if you don't want to talk about some of the agreements and the contracts, who would want to keep, I mean, we could be able to sort of touch on that either now or next episode. But I want to get to the awards. I want to give
All
out
right.
some fake battered hair on trophies.
Go ahead. All right, so we're gonna start with the most obvious one that everybody talks about, and it is the MVP. Now, Inter Miami came out and they officially said Higuain was the team MVP. Now I know.
I mean,
So,
of course,
who is your team MVP for Inter Miami, sir?
I think that I could speak for both of us by saying that without a shadow of a doubt, the Pozuelo effect was the one thing that turned this whole thing around.
I agree.
And if we're talking about most valuable player, you can't get any more valuable than you single-handedly as a player turning around a team's production. And so,
And not just the production, the formation, the way in which you're playing.
yes,
You lit a fire under your star's ass. Like, everything circulated around Pozuelo once he came.
yeah, and I mean, and like you said, you're changing strategies, you're changing approaches, you're changing mindsets that have already been sort of cemented and developed throughout the season. You come in and it's like, okay, we got to stop what we're doing. We've got this guy Pozuelo, and we need to make it happen for this guy. That's MVP stuff right there. You can't
I
get it any better.
I agree. All right, so that one was easy. Now let's go over the defensive player of the year. Who to you was the defensive player of the year?
So I'll tell you who my defensive player of the year. I'll tell you is Gregory. He to
Okay.
me is the defensive player of the year, and I was gonna go with one of the fullbacks. I felt like
A
it
lot
was
of people
probably
kill Gregory because he fouls so much. I think he might have led the league in fouls, and I have to look that
oh
up.
for sure.
But I know,
Probably did.
and I love when players play like that, by the way. So, but I know he was a third or fourth in the league in tackles in the regular season.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
he's aggressive, but he wins the ball.
Yeah, he wins the ball. He's very aggressive, and to me, the one thing that stands out as far as his play is because of his aggression. He's not scared to sort of tangle with the players and he does win a lot of balls. I was gonna go in Mota, but I think Gregory deserves it because he really pushes the envelope in terms of his aggression and the way that he approaches the situations when he's defending. That's one player that in every replay when the team is transitioning, you see him running full speed to get back on defense. And not many people do that. Some people jog down. Some people take their time. They're reserving their energy. But he is on full tilt 90 plus minutes almost every game that he plays.
So you're going Gregory.
Yeah, I'm going Gregory.
All right. I'm going to go Chris McVeigh for a couple reasons. One, he played just about every game. Two, he was versatile. Even though I didn't like him at left back, I prefer having – he was out there playing left back, and when they wanted him to play center back, he went in, he played center back. He was versatile. He was always available, and I think for that reason, he was an integral part in this defense. So to me, Chris McVeigh is the defensive player of the year for this team.
I could see that because obviously you have Gibbs, who's inconsistent. You have Noah Allen, who's too young, not experienced enough. So I can agree with that. I think that's a good pick. You know, he came in at the right time.
Of course,
it was it was necessary. So I can agree with that.
All right, next award. Most overrated player on the team.
You tell me who you think.
All right. The problem with this is that the player that I have in mind, I think is overrated, but some people might not even rate him at all. But I still think he's overrated, and that's Indiana Vasilev.
Ugh, your hatred.
Indiana Vasilev is the most overrated player on the team to me by far. Everybody enjoys when he comes into the game. I don't know why. He doesn't do anything. He starts a lot of games. I don't know why. He doesn't do anything. To me, I don't know him personally, so I can't say I don't like the guy. But as a player, I dislike him on the team. I do not like him. And like I said, he might not even be rated at all. If you talk to anybody that's not an Inter Miami fan, they probably have no idea who he is. But to me, he's the most overrated player on this team.
2 big goals, Papa. I mean,
those are 2 big goals, yes, but you can't keep clinging on to that. He played over 1,000 minutes, and those are the only 2 goals he scored all year.
I think he's good. I think he probably has a resume written down, so when he sees other teams, he's like, "Hey, look at my resume, buddy. Look at these." And
he won player of the week that week too.
He did. I thought they were gonna come out with like a silver card for his ass. I said, "Let me get that." But yeah, he's a good pick. But you know who's even better of a pick for the most overrated player to wear an Inter Miami jersey this year? I mean,
Emerson Rodriguez.
But no way, shape, or form. This player that I'm picking, first of all, barely even wore the jersey. Okay,
I know
this guy is sitting somewhere washing dishes as we speak. Coco Jean, to me, the thing is that he had a lot of hype. There was a lot of hype.
There was no hype behind him.
There was. Look, it got overshadowed. It got overshadowed by Pozuelo, but everybody's like, "Ooh, look at this French guy, Coco Jean. Oh, he did so good. Blah blah blah. He could play wing. He could play midfield. He could play striker. He could do this." I said, "Oh man, we got ourselves like a Superman." This guy comes over. He's walking onto the field. He walks onto the field, breaks his ankles or whatever. Then he gets back into form, plays 4.5 minutes, and then gets injured. I don't know where. I don't know if
we'll get used to him because we have him on the contract until 2024. So get used to him.
Yeah, and I don't know if he got injured walking Aventura Mall or whatever they do in Broward County over there. All I know is that Coco Jean, to me, most overrated player, even though he got outshined by Pozuelo in the transaction time. Get that guy out of here. Bargain bin him out of here.
Are there any honorable mentions
for most overrated player other than Coco Jean?
Other than Coco Jean.
I don't have one immediately come to mind because Coco Jean is just so overrated. Okay. I imagine you do. Who do you think?
To me, honorable mention as most overrated, Lassiter.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
bit overrated.
Turn your camera off. Turn your microphone off. Get out of here.
I think he's a bit overrated. I do. He's fast. He can't
You're done.
finish. I don't know. To me, he's a bit overrated. I could do without Lassiter.
Look, he's a very good player. He's an efficient player. He's going to get the job done.
That's the problem. He doesn't
He's
get the
not.
job done.
In
You
the
know what
eyes
he
of a lot
does
of
very
viewers,
well? He manages to hit defenders when there's an open goal. Like, there's one single defender that's not the goalie, so they cannot use their arms, but he manages to hit the defender in the upper body or the face regardless. Like I've said this before, if you attempt to do that on purpose, you probably fail. But he manages to do it unconsciously. He just can't finish. I am not a big Lassiter fan.
You're done. Get out of here.
Again, but he wasn't number one. Honorable mention.
Next trophy, guy. Let's go.
Most underrated Inter Miami player, sir.
Okay, so let me go with this one. So I'll start it off. And I think we might be on the same page. Maybe you might have someone else picked, but I'm going to say Bryce Duke. Duke is the most underrated player. Why? Because I feel like he hasn't had the best opportunities to shine, to sort of show off his skill. I mean, he did get a lot more minutes before Pozuelo came on, granted.
Right.
But again, you have Bryce Duke, who is sort of doing a lot better with a sort of midfield-minded strategy. But the minutes that he was getting, the higher minutes, was when the team was strategizing to work the wings. So now that you have Bryce Duke finally meshing with a player like Pozuelo, I think that it's going to work wonders for him. Last year, I feel like he didn't get his shine, especially on a wing-based offense. So I feel like Bryce Duke was probably the most underrated player on Inter Miami.
Well, his contract is up, so no guarantee that he's coming back.
Oh, they got to sign him. Dotted line. Let's go. Come on, Dookie.
All right. My most underrated player this year, I think, is Robert Taylor. I don't know why, but he goes
good.
so overlooked. Nobody talks about him. And I feel like he's, with the ball at his feet, I think he's probably top 3 most talented on the team. I honestly, and I'd venture to say number 1, but maybe I'm wrong. But to me, I've called it since we started this podcast. I've said he's Neymar Light. To me, he's Neymar Light. I love Robert Taylor. I love him out on the wings. They constantly have him playing wing back for some reason, so he has to get back on defense, but he's doing that also. To me, Robert Taylor doesn't get the shine that he deserves. I think Robert Taylor is by far the most underrated player on this team.
Well, I agree. You were saying?
I was going to say that my honorable mention was going to be Bryce Duke because I don't think he sees the field enough, even though he's one of the most talented players on the team.
Well, and I'll tell you this much. I've been watching stories on Instagram of the players, and I think that Taylor is the only one that's actually played some soccer on the offseason so far. So I give him a ton of credit for that.
Just because it didn't happen on social media doesn't mean it's not happening.
Get out of here. Everybody needs to get on the field and practice. This is coach speak.
But they might be doing it. That's what I'm saying. Just because they don't post it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Get out there. Record it. I want to see it now.
All right. The next award is Hope to Never See You Again.
Oh, man.
So who is the I Hope to Never See You Again award going to, Chris?
Get out of here, Coco.
Oh,
get out of here.
Jesus.
I'm done with you. You're making 2 of the worst categories for me, my friend. Okay? Peace out. Sayonara. Get out of here. Okay? You're done.
Well, he's under contract, so you're going to have to see him again.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean,
well, again, I guess much like you, I guess I should have just made this into one category. The most overrated.
We should have. I mean, here comes
Indiana.
Vasilev.
He is actually a free agent, so he is actually free to go. And I hope that we don't bring him back because I hope to never see him again. That's just how I feel.
So you're hoping you're hoping they don't sign the dotted line with Vasilev,
right? And
that would be catastrophic.
Robbie Robinson's out on loan, but his contract's also up this year.
He can get out of here too.
Yeah, he's made out of glass. He's like paper mache. So, like, I'm good with him not coming back either. Like, not because of his skill, but because he's never available. And availability is the most important ability.
Well, and I'll tell you what I noticed in the beginning couple games when Robinson was playing.
Mhm.
He has a very sort of selfish vibe to him from what I've seen. Like when he scores, when he does these like fancy stuff. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm reading it wrong because he does. He's very skilled. I can't take that away from him. But
Mhm.
at least from my perspective, it does seem like he's just like about me, me, me. And maybe he just learned that from Higuain, but I don't know. Who knows at this point?
I don't know. I can't comment on that because I mean I haven't gotten that vibe and I
I,
haven't seen anything to make me think that, but maybe.
I mean,
Um,
maybe they're both me, 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 and they get their knees blown out for half a season.
Higuain was out for 3 games, man.
Listen, you say out for 3 games. He almost got his knee destroyed. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, so
Now I'm gonna put out there the Please Come Back Award. Now I'm gonna name to you the players that's contracts are up. All right, and you tell me who you want to come back. I'm gonna start with Pozuelo, but you can't choose Pozuelo because that's the obvious choice.
yeah, of course.
Campana has already resigned, so we can't use
Yes.
Campana. So here go
Uh-huh.
the rest.
Yeah.
Jovan Jones, Indiana Vasilev, Robbie Robinson, he's already loaned out to Spain. Breck Shea, Drake Callender, Bryce Duke, Ryan Saylor, and Felipe Valencia. That's
Edison
what I use. That's
Ascona.
yeah, Edison Ascona, but yeah, Edison
I mean,
Ascona.
look, he's Dominican, Diablo. Come on, man. You
I
know
think
who I'm gonna go
I
with?
think Ascona got loaned out into Spain also.
You know who I'll go with? I mean, the obvious is going to be Bryce Duke, right? I mean,
Okay.
with Drake Callender being 1B. Drake Callender was actually going to be my first choice. I mean, I think it's a no-brainer to bring Bryce Duke back. And at this point with Drake, he has shown that he has the capability of being your number one goalie. So I'm going to go with Bryce Duke with Drake Callender being a 1B.
Are do you want Breck Shea back?
I don't know, man. I mean, he's an older player. I mean, he has experience,
I've
right?
never been a big Breck Shea guy, but a lot of people love Breck
Yeah,
Shea.
they do. Yeah, and he's
Yeah,
slow as hell.
and he's had some clutch goals in
He
prior
has.
seasons. I remember he won a game for us in Cincinnati. I think I want to say at the death. But I've never been a big Breck Shea guy.
Well, you know who won us a goal as a defender was your boy McVeigh. He won us a game last minute as well. I mean,
Yes.
the one thing I'll give credit to for Breck Shea, same thing with Gibbs. They're both more offensive minded defenders. So
Hmm.
those are people that you can definitely rely on
Well,
to sort of
they're
try.
wings. I mean,
Yeah,
wings a lot of times contribute on the offensive end.
yeah. So I mean, at least for me, I'm going with Duke and Calendar.
All right. So um, this year coming up, we have Nick Marsman and Drake Callender. Let's say Drake Callender comes back, which we just assume that he will.
Yeah.
Do you think Drake Callender holds down his spot? I mean, he was a candidate for goalie of the year. So is he going to keep his spot as a starter?
I would believe so. I would believe so. I mean, I don't know how far I think Nick Marsman is under contract until next year. So if there is any sort of time, I guess, to sort of play around and see who wants the job more, I guess this would be the year. But in my opinion, I mean, I would assume that the ownership and the coaches and staff, they're looking at Drake Callender and they're saying this is the guy of our future, you know.
And how happy are you with the defense on this for this year? Because the defense this year was porous. Damian Lowe and Mabika back there. Look, I appreciate Mabika because I think he comes off as a really nice guy.
Yeah, very positive minded.
Right, but I'm just not a fan of him playing. So I don't mind him being like a backup because I think he can contribute when he comes in late in games, or somebody's injured, somebody has a red card, whatever reason he has to come in as the backup to fill it. I'm good with that, but I don't want him to be the everyday starter. That's just I don't like him in that position. And Damian Lowe to me was up and down. Like he had good games, he had bad games. After that
Yeah,
Orlando
yeah.
game, where he had that own goal. I think there was like a month after that where he just looked horrible, but then he picked it
Yeah.
up again. So he's not consistent enough, in my opinion. I think we might need to go out and find maybe one or two new cornerbacks, center backs, and or maybe give Robert Saylor a more consistent chance because Robert Saylor was young. I thought he played pretty well. I want to see Robert Saylor over Mabika.
I think I agree with Sailor getting some more playing time to sort of prove himself to get into this defense because when he did get on the field, he wasn't too bad. I mean, I think that the defense, and especially for a coach like Phil Neville who played on the defensive line, the back line,
Mm-hmm.
for someone like him, he probably sees this and he's chomping at the bit because he knows that there's people tussling for spots back there. You're talking about 4 spots. I mean, Yedlin's for sure a guaranteed right back. But there's essentially 3 other positions that are up for grabs on this coming season. So I'm looking forward to it because we got options, right? We got Neville. His son is also an option, which whatever. Noah Allen, we got to free him, put him out there, and then we got 4 other guys that could be fighting for the center back positions, if not maybe the left back position. So that's going to be cool.
We scored 47 goals this season.
Yeah.
Now, I know you know who the leading goal scorer was, right?
Of course, the MVP.
And then we have second was Campana. If I were to ask you who the third was, could you tell me off the top of your head who you think the third person was?
The third person was probably Mota.
No. It
Who
was
would it be?
Lassiter. So we had Higuain lead the team with 16 goals, Campana with 12, and then we had Lassiter with 6. After that,
And you're trying
nobody
to get
had
him off
more
the
than
team.
I'm not a fan. He should have had 12.
Yeah,
After that, we don't have anybody over 3 goals. So we have Lassiter at 6. We had Mota had 3. Robert Taylor had 3. Bosuelo had 2. Emerson Rodriguez had 2. What a miracle.
I mean, he should have had like 9.
Indiana Vasilev had 2 in a span of 10 minutes. Then you have Robbie Robinson had 2, McVay had 1, Damian Lowe had 1, and Bryce Duke had 1, which was basically a tap-in.
Yeah.
So, because Bryce Duke is really bad in the box, but I love him outside the box. So we need more protection out of the rest of the team. I think Messi's going to bring that when he gets here.
Look at this guy signing Messi already.
But yeah, I mean, this year I'm looking forward to see what this team looks like with Pozuelo there from the beginning of the year. Pozuelo has to resign. He loves it here in Miami.
Yeah.
I think he earned his money, so I think he's going to take one of those DP spots. Now with Pizarro coming back, I would assume he's going to get bought out because you're allowed to buy out one person per year. So he's gonna. I would assume and I would hope that if he wasn't able to start for, I forgot Monterrey, I think it was in the Mexican team that he was playing for.
Yeah.
He wasn't even starting for them. If he couldn't start for them, no way do we waste a DP spot on him. We have to buy him out.
Absolutely not. Get this guy out of here on a 1-day shipping.
So we have to buy him out and free up as much money as we can for 2 DP spots because Pozuelo's going to take one of those. Campana signed for a young DP, right? The under 22 initiative or something like that. So we have those 2 locked in. We have 2 DP spots. Hopefully they're going to be open. And with this whole Apple contract that MLS has, maybe we'll have 3 DP spots that are open because they might give a 4 DP spots for every team. And we're going to get into that whole Apple thing next week.
Yeah, we're going to touch that for sure.
So the future looks not that bad. I mean, I feel like we have a nice core in the midfield. We have Bosuelo hopefully coming back. We have Campana up top. I mean, I think we're looking pretty nice. Well, what are you looking for in this coming year or this coming off season?
Well, what I'm looking forward to in the offseason is to see who we end up getting in those DP spots. I mean, here we are. We're losing out on Higuain. He's retiring, right? We still got some holes in our defense. I feel like we're very comfortable in our midfield, and our defense needs to improve drastically. And we need just the right piece in the final third. Wow, I cannot believe I just said that football phrase. Uh, and so we're gonna. I think
Come a
those are
long
the.
way from episode number 1.
I have come a long way for sure. Let me tell you.
Episode 1, yeah.
And but that's where I think that we're really going to be focusing on. We're going to need a strong set of players in our defensive, and then we need that one or two players that's going to help us in putting more balls in the back of the net. But now, as far as game, like what are you looking forward to at the end of this? At the end of the day,
Well, I give you that answer, do you think Campana can fill in the shoes that Higuain's leaving behind? The second half, right? Comeback player of the year, Higuain.
yeah.
Like, can he fill those shoes?
I think he can. I mean, look, he. The problem is seeing him with Pozuelo, right? What are we gonna get?
We haven't seen it yet.
But Pozuelo plays a very patient sort of attack where he leads the block, like leads the striker, and he understands the pace that Higuain works in. You could tell that there were a lot of times when he was trying to lead players that are a little faster. Sometimes if they didn't have good touch, they wouldn't put themselves in good position, like Lassiter, like Emerson, like possibly Campana. And so that's some of the things, some of the kinks that they're going to have to work out on. That's just my perspective on those things.
Well, I also think that he can fill in those shoes, but I do think you need a backup striker at some point. Maybe Coco Jean can be that guy. We'll have to just wait and see.
I doubt it.
But this offseason, I'm interested in what to do with the back line. I want to see what they do with the center back position because, like I said, I don't like Mabika starting. Robert Saylor. I don't even know if his first name is Robert. I'm blanking right now. Well, Saylor, I thought he did a pretty good job this year, but I would like to see that center back position addressed. And honestly, I'm hoping that they announced that Noah Allen is going to be moved up. If you could bring Noah Allen up to play left back and you can move McVay into center back, I think all we need is one good center back, and we have a good defensive back line. So I'm looking forward to see what they do with the defense. I'm looking forward to see what DPs we sign. Obviously, that's always the fun part, seeing what big names we bring in. But that's basically it.
Well, and we're looking forward, and I know in a couple of the episodes coming up, we're definitely going to be looking forward into what's going to be the expectations, some of the players. But now let's take a look back, right? Let's look back at this season real quick. And what do you think was the best game of the year this year for Inter Miami?
I think there's a very easy answer, and you might go with that one, so I'm not going to say it. I'm going to wait because I have a feeling that there's a very straightforward answer. I'm going to say the NYCFC game here in Miami. I thought it was really entertaining the way we went back and forth. I thought that was Pozuelo's coming out party. I think it had the best image of the year when he scored that game-winning goal. And he ran to the sideline, took off his shirt, started yelling in the crowd. To me, I think that was my favorite moment as far as how I felt when I was watching it. Because at that point, even though NYCFC had lost Tati already and whatnot, they were still the defending champs. I felt like it was a coming out party for Pozuelo to show that he was the guy. And to me, that was my favorite memory of the year, outside of the obvious one, which I'm sure you're probably going to choose.
Yes, I am. And I am going to pick it. It was more recent, and it was domination from the get. The same game that you're thinking about against Orlando, where we won 4-1. It is. I was actually going to go with the game when we played against Columbus Crew that we actually won, which were a couple weeks before that. But I mean, the feeling that you get from that first goal within the first minute, I mean, there's nothing better than that. You literally,
especially when it's such a big game.
Yes.
Like, because we knew if we win, we're probably in the playoffs. So that energy in that stadium was already there. The stadium was packed, and it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday. The stadium was packed. Everybody was anticipating the game. And then to start off like that in under a minute, the stadium was electric the entire 90 minutes. And it was just an ass kicking. So by far, that is the best game of the year. But the NYCFC one is also a good one. I felt like that's honorable mention because
Yeah.
I felt like everybody knew that Orlando is by far the best game of the year.
Yeah.
So to that end, what to you was the worst memory of the year?
Well, I think you might know where I'm going to go with this because earlier we had worst game, but worst game and worst memory to me are the same thing.
We
And
didn't
it
have worst
was
game, but okay, go ahead.
and the worst memory of the year, worst game of the year was against Cincinnati. And you know I hate that team. And that red-faced goalie
Yeah.
looking back at us because he
Hmm.
tied the freaking game. Like, dude,
Yeah.
get over yourself. You might not even be on that team next year. Okay, guy?
Yeah.
And so that to me, when we tied 4-4 with so many goals scored.
Yeah. It
Now,
was
it
an
was a
entertaining
back and
game.
forth game. That was
Yeah.
actually one of the most entertaining games that I've
That was a very
actually,
entertaining game.
yeah, that I've seen in person. But as far as the worst memory, that was it. His face.
And Pozuelo had a goal called back on him for offside, which wasn't offside.
Yes.
And we should have won that game because
Yes,
at
we should
that
have.
point we would have gone 4-1. We would have gone up 4-1. And
Yeah.
if we win that game, we end up with the fifth seed. We end up playing against the Red Bulls, I believe,
And
in the
destroy him.
first, and we would have destroyed them because the Red
Yeah.
Bulls was by far the worst home team in the league, or at
Because
least in the playoffs. So I think we would have won that game. But it's funny how just one call can change a lot of stuff in the season.
and the worst part is we would have destroyed them and Morgan would have still gotten injured after a goal, after dancing and celebrating. So we still would have won. We would have gone on to the next series. But yeah, that game to me, and I talked about it a lot in the podcast. That game was going to be huge. It was going to be huge.
Well, there's another one that not my worst memory of the year, but another negative moment in the year was Pozuelo's boot to the face. Remember when he Kevin Nash that guy?
Yes, he
And we
did.
we were gonna win that game, and then once he got kicked out the game with the red card,
Yeah.
everything went downhill from there. And
Yeah.
that was another one. I felt like we lost 3 points on that one.
Yeah.
To me, my worst memory of the year, and by far for me, was that own goal by Damian Lowe.
Oh,
In Orlando?
Yeah, that was rough. That was rough.
That was a really rough game to watch, period. It was 0-0, and then they ended up getting 3 points in the win, and they weren't even able to score themselves. We had to score
Yeah.
for them. That
Yeah.
was so frustrating. And Damian Lowe at that point had played such a great game, which made it even worse because
Yeah.
I remember thinking to myself, I was like, man, this guy is playing really good. Like he's really turned it around. He's balling. And for him to be the one to give up that goal while I'm literally thinking he's the man of the match right before then was really rough. And to me, that was by far the worst memory of the year for me personally.
Well, it's a 1B for me too because I'm sitting in the middle of a hotel in Legoland.
Oh, that's right. You were in Orlando.
Yes, I was in Orlando, and
Mhm.
I couldn't even watch the game on local TV because Orlando just sucks. So I had to find ways to watch the game on my phone, and to see that last minute goal, I swear to God, I wanted to go into Legoland land and punch Peppa Pig in the face. I was furious.
Yeah, that was a rough one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I got for awards and all that. Do you have absolutely anything else that you want to talk about this past season? Because it was a fun season. It was your first full season watching soccer. And anything else you want to get? Well, one thing we need to bring up,
Yeah.
we can't play like we did this year. As
Yeah.
far as starting slow and relying on scoring late to win. It's fun to watch.
Oh yeah.
The emotion of scoring a late goal to win is amazing. But we can't keep playing like that. Like
No, we can't. We're playing with fire.
Right, exactly. We're playing with fire. You can't win like that, especially not in the playoffs. So you need to start hot. Like we waited until I wish I would have looked it up before this, but I don't know how many goals we scored after the 80th minute. I know we led the league, but I'm not sure exactly how many it was. And we can't rely on that next year
No, we
because,
can't.
like you said, we're playing with fire in that case.
And that's definitely a strategy. I don't even know if it's a strategy.
It's not a strategy.
Yeah, it's just a way that the team is playing. They're just not picking up the pace early enough. or they're just not. I don't think that they're. I don't know. I mean, it could be a number of things, but that's one thing that definitely does have to change. And my perspective on the season, look, I'm going to tell all the people that I know, soccer fans or not, they need to go out and support their local soccer team. I think it was a phenomenal experience, not just from an aspect of a sports viewing experience, but just from an ambiance perspective, from being able to do something a little bit out of your comfort zone. I thought it was amazing. I recommend it to people who love soccer, who don't love soccer. I look forward to the next season for sure, no matter what.
Now that you brought up supporting your team, we were about to end the episode.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna throw a random new topic in there that you weren't prepared for because I just thought of it.
In there.
But I need to discuss this because we have a group chat and it was discussed there, and I was the odd man out for some reason. So I need to put it out in the ether to see what it is that other people think. Messi.
Hey.
I say getting Messi would be an amazing move for several reasons. Now, there's a lot of rumblings again about Messi coming. I'm never going to believe it until he's finally holding up that jersey and he signs that contract. But we were talking to some people on our group chat, and they said they don't want Messi.
Yeah.
They said they don't want Messi because they don't want fake fans jumping on the bandwagon. I think that's one of the most idiotic things I've ever heard. Because I'd rather have fake fans filling that stadium. Actually, there could be cardboard cutouts filling the stadium. I just want a full stadium. I don't care if they are fake fans. Fake fans can eventually become real fans if they start enjoying the product. Just get them in there so that they watch the product and see that it's not as bad as a lot of people think. But let's get the fans in there. I think saying that they don't want Messi because they don't want the fake fans to jump in, I think it's ridiculous, honestly. You know what it's like? It's like people that like underground rock bands or underground rappers. As soon as they go mainstream, they're like, they're not the same. I don't like them. Everybody likes them. They're not the same. I used to like them when they were underground. Like, it's stupid. Like, I don't get it.
Well, that there's complete. First of all, I don't know.
I went there because I know that tugs at your heart a little bit.
That stings me. Yes. I still listen to 90s hip hop. Mm-hmm. Go F yourself. And one thing I could tell you that I do agree with, especially with the people that mentioned it in our group chat, is I do agree with the fact of being able to sort of build your team without big names. And it makes it more prideful, I guess, to follow. You have to understand that it's always cool. I mean, look at the Detroit Pistons when they won the championship against the Heat. They literally were the team that were built from the ground up. Picked up.
And how many championships did they win?
They won one, and it was a beautiful one against the Miami Heat.
That's fine. And the Heat built a super team, and in 4 years, how many did they win?
But now that's the thing.
How many did they win?
Look, but how
many did they win?
They won, I think, 2. So, but that's the thing
and that's basketball. Let's talk soccer. You have 2 examples right now. This weekend is the final for the MLS final, right?
Yeah, you got Austin and LAFC.
LAFC, and we have Philly. Those are the 2 teams in the final. Right?
Yeah, that's right, Philly.
And it's like the perfect representation to what we're talking about right now. You have LAFC, which just started signing just about everybody. I don't know how many rules they've broken. They haven't been announced yet, but I am 100% that they broke 1 million rules. And then you have Philly, who's built from the ground up. They don't have any big names. They just have solid players, and they just built the right way.
Yeah.
Philly has been around for like 10 plus years and just got to the finals for the first time after building correctly, slowly.
Yeah.
LAFC has been around, I think this is their 4th season. Just signed a bunch of names. They're in the final.
Yeah.
Which route do you think I would take?
I mean, obviously, you take the LAFC route.
I'm taking the LAFC route. Give me all the stars. Give me all the names. If they can win me games, and everybody's like, oh, but Gareth Bale, yeah, he's a big name, but he's not even playing for them. If Gareth Bale is your 4th best wing, sign me up.
Yeah.
Because if he was on our team, he would be number 1 or 2.
Yes, he would.
So I don't get it. I'm all for signing the big names. And if you say that they're going to be fake fans because they're just coming out to watch Messi, let them come out to watch Messi. Who cares? Well, just get them in the seats. They'll eventually become real fans.
Bale would be 2 behind 1 Messi.
Exactly.
That for
But-
sure.
So I'm all for building quickly with big names. I don't care. And the rationale of I don't want fake fans to come support the team. Man, I want everybody to support this team. I don't care
Oh,
if
of
you're a real
course.
fan, cardboard cutout. You put take your pet to the game and we just fill it up with half Shih Tzus and rock. I don't care. Like just give me people or living objects in the stadium.
Yes, and fill it up. Full stadium.
Fill it up.
Not one seat available.
That's what I want.
They should put those wiggling arm tube men outside of dealerships.
And Messi would bring real human beings to come watch.
Yes, he would.
When Argentina plays against, I think it was Honduras.
Yes.
I promise you, anybody else comes to play against Honduras outside of maybe Hondurians, nobody else is gonna come watch that game.
Yeah.
Or whatever other nationalities playing against them. But when Messi's coming,
everybody's showing
because he is literally, most people consider him, and I'd say most, even though I want to say all, but I know a lot of people go against the grain, the greatest soccer player of all time. If you have a chance to come watch the greatest soccer player of all time, you take that chance. If he's here playing 17 home games, people are going to come watch, fill up that stadium. We take that. Why not?
Yeah, for
so
sure.
Again, no, don't say for sure because you and
I agree.
We're coming at me about I want to build the right way. Detroit Pistons.
I mean, look, I agree with his view on building that way, but I also understand the fact that hey, it's not that bad of an idea to build quickly with big names. I'll take a Messi any day of the week, but I
would have told you Messi would have been in our team last season, but you would have had the stadium full of people who were wearing Barcelona jerseys instead of Inter Miami jerseys. Would you have signed up for that anyway?
If you take Coco Jean off the team, I'd sign up for it. And Emerson has to wing on the side.
I think you would have signed up for it. Just about every Inter Miami fan would have signed up for it because you just want a nice full stadium that makes noise. You want your team to be supported, and you want to win. And adding Messi at the level that he's playing, I promise you, it's more good than bad.
Yeah, for sure. I do agree with that. I think it's going to be the best play no matter what to sign Messi. I mean, look, is it the long play? No, of course not. It's get him win now. So
yeah, I mean, I think if you get him, like they're saying, possibly next season, next summer, it's a 2 to 3 year window.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'm good with that too. Get that paper, get that pen, sign on the dotted line. Messi, where you at? Stop slacking, boy.
I like it.
Yeah.
Anything else before we head out of here?
It's time to head out. Next week is another episode. Wait for us, bitches.
And after next week, we're going to start jumping in headfirst into the World Cup. We're going to do some battered Heron / U.S. men's national team World Cup coverage, whatever you want to refer to it as. I'm excited. It's every 4 years. And like I said, you haven't experienced the rush that it is to support your country, and just watching World Cup soccer is just fun, man.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it a couple years ago, but guys, prepárate, café en mano, y dale.
I'll catch you guys next week. Thanks for listening.